With the Royal Rumble coming up, WWE has a great problem on their hands. They have a lot of contenders for once. For so long, it always felt for me that the Rumble winner was a foregone conclusion. So often, WWE would telegraph their winner by spotlighting them so much on weekly TV, or making it just so obvious that there's nobody else that would be even considered as a possible winner. Look at the Roman Reigns experiment for years that went on, it felt like forever, didn't it? And sometimes having a predictable winner isn't really a bad thing, because maybe it's just what needs to happen for that story. Cody Rhodes, Rhea Ripley, Drew McIntyre with his huge win, Austin in the 90s, Triple H's big return from injury and winning the Royal Rumble, Rey Mysterio going the distance, and who could forget Braun Strowman as the greatest Royal Rumble winner? Okay, that last one doesn't count. But in 2025, there are so many contenders on both the men's and the women's side that could win the Royal Rumble. And I'm actually excited about it. So let's start with the women, and let's assume that for the champions going into WrestleMania is going to be Nia Jax, and I'm gonna assume Rhea Ripley is going to actually get the world title off of Liv before WrestleMania. Because for me, the Liv and Rhea story, it's gone on long enough, and just put the title on Rhea, let's move forward. Okay, possible winners on the women's side. I'm gonna first say Becky Lynch. It's a possibility that Becky would win the Royal Rumble. She's rumored to come back at even the Raw Netflix debut episode there, but I could see her going into the Royal Rumble. She could win the thing. It's a massive name. She's been off TV long enough. You could run it back if you wanted to do Rhea versus Becky one more time at WrestleMania. That match, I believe Becky was like sick or something, and she still pulled off a really good match with Rhea. Could do it again. We have seen it. You could go in another direction. It could be Becky versus Nia Jax, or a multi-woman match. Becky, I'm kind of lukewarm on, honestly, if she was to win the Royal Rumble, but it's a possibility. Next, Io Sky. I would love it if they pulled the trigger on Io Sky winning the Royal Rumble. Now, I do understand, and I know she is in the Intercontinental title division scene and all of that. I could see her getting into the Royal Rumble and winning the thing. And it would be a really cool matchup, a face versus face, if you did Rhea versus Io for the world title. Io Sky just keeps getting better. The fans love her more and more, and the two of them could just put on a great story. And you could also use the elements of damage control in there, going up against Rhea Ripley, trying to have Rhea overcome the odds, maybe deception, and there's some problems in there with damage control like they've done in the past, but you could tell an excellent story between these two. Okay, next is going to be Liv Morgan. I assume, like I said, that she's going to drop the world title to Rhea. Now, if WWE really wanted to make the story just keep on going, and they wanted to do the big payoff for this thing at WrestleMania, you could have Rhea pick up the title before Mania, and then you could end up having Liv Morgan win the Royal Rumble, challenges Rhea Ripley for her title that she lost, and maybe with shenanigans or whatever. She goes after the title, and they do that match at WrestleMania. Now, let's flip it here just for a second. If by chance they are going to keep it so that it's Liv holding the belt to Mania, you could do Rhea Ripley as the Rumble winner once again. I don't like that story, to be honest, very much. I don't feel like it's very fun. They might do that match anyways at WrestleMania, and it doesn't involve the Royal Rumble winner. But because they put so much time and they invested so much into that, they might want that giant payoff to be at Mania. Next, on the women's side, and maybe focusing more on the SmackDown side for Nia Jax's opponent, Bianca Belair. This is where it gets interesting, and I feel like SmackDown and the WWE Championship for the women is a little bit more interesting for the Rumble winner and what they could do in terms of storytelling. I think Bianca could go and win the Rumble, and then she could go and fight Nia Jax in a main event match. And Bianca Belair hasn't lost at WrestleMania either. She's got a little streak going, and that's always fun to play into. A possible winner as well, it could be Jade Cargill. Now, a lot of people may not be fans of that because they say, hey, Jade's not ready and she's off with this injury and she got put through a car. But you could have Jade come back at the Royal Rumble, get a huge pop, she enters the Rumble, she eliminates a bunch of people, she dominates, and Jade wins the Rumble. But what you could do with Jade winning the Rumble is tell a really cool story all the way through to WrestleMania, not just this cut and dry of Jade wins and then challenges Nia, and then we've got 3 months of Jade versus Nia. Because I don't feel right now anyways, I don't feel like Jade could hold it to that high level in terms of promos against Nia Jax where things would be very compelling. But I think if you told a really cool story, like this whole who done it, who did the injury angle, it could make for some really compelling stories in TV. The whole story behind Jade winning the Rumble going into WrestleMania could be not only her trying to get to the title and Nia Jax, but also who ran her over. And you could get a straightforward thing of just like, okay, it's revealed that Nia Jax took her out, but you could do a really cool twist and you could have it that it was Bianca Belair that took her out. And if Bianca was the one that secretly took out Jade Cargill, trying to get her away and not trying to overshadow her in any way, then you could get Bianca inserted into that match, make it a three-way, and you have Bianca, Jade, and Nia Jax going at it. And that way you have a lot of big star power, but also if Jade can't really handle or hang in a one-on-one match at WrestleMania for the title, that's a big spot and that's a lot of pressure. And from what we've seen from Jade in WWE, I mean, it's always been tag team matches, the odd singles match, but that is a giant spotlight. And I think that you could balance things out and protect her a little bit if you put Bianca in there, you make it a three-way match, and then that way it's gonna be a lot more fun. All right, the other person on this list, Charlotte Flair, returns, wins the Rumble. Kind of an obvious one too. Now, is everyone gonna be excited if Charlotte wins and comes back? Maybe not, but the only thing with Charlotte winning the Rumble is that you can go in different directions, is that you can pivot her and just have her go after the world title on Raw, or she can hang out on SmackDown and she can go after Nia, for example. And again, assuming that those are the champions, Rhea and Nia, or Liv and Nia. But Charlotte versus Nia Jax at WrestleMania is a really cool match to do. They got history, Charlotte's return would be a big deal, and you could bring Charlotte back as a babyface. Or does she win the Rumble and maybe pivot and goes after Rhea Ripley, assuming she's champion, and redo that match? Because that was a giant match at WrestleMania 39. That was one of my favorite matches of that entire show. The X Factor though, regardless of winner and who goes to WrestleMania, the X Factor in the women's side of things and contenders and all that is Tiffany Stratton with that women's Money in the Bank briefcase. I think if you did like Charlotte versus Nia, for example, at WrestleMania, that's an excellent match to have. And then you could have Tiffany cash in at the very end, and then that can set up the rematch with Nia, and you have the friendship and the deception, all that stuff going on right now. Candice LeRae's in the mix, and Tiffany could go and win and cash in on Nia, Charlotte in their match. And then it also sets up so that Charlotte can go and have a feud with Tiffany. I think that if Tiffany cashes in on whatever the main event match is there, that it sets up more stories after WrestleMania, which is kind of what you want. I didn't have Naomi, and I don't have Bayley and other people on that list, and I think they could. There's a case to be made for like Naomi, for example, because I'd love to see her win a title, but I just don't see it for this year's Mania, and we've already had Bayley, and I don't see that happening again. Okay, let's look at the men's Rumble winners, potential winners, and let's assume, once again, let's assume our champions. Let's assume we're gonna get Cody Rhodes still champion, and you got Gunther holding on the world title. Gunther, for me, is a little bit more of a question mark. I don't really doubt that Cody's gonna retain that title, and we know that at the Royal Rumble, we're gonna get Cody versus Kevin Owens in a ladder match for the champion of all champions champion match. So I think Cody's gonna retain that, and then maybe we still have Gunther. First on the list, CM Punk. Punk can win. He's pointed at the Mania sign already. Like, you don't point that early unless it means you're gonna win it, to be honest. Like, it's very likely that Punk could win. He gets his main event match at WrestleMania, probably a night one Mania for the world title. He could fight Gunther at WrestleMania. I think that's a great match on paper, but they got to heat up Gunther for me, and they got to make him more dominant once again. But there's so many possibilities as well on this side of things, where like with the men's Rumble winner, because you can have a CM Punk and whoever the champion is, because it's possible that Seth would get the world title off of Gunther before WrestleMania. Gunther losing at the Rumble or Elimination Chamber to then get Punk versus Seth, for example, at WrestleMania. Punk, very high on my list personally as a Royal Rumble winner, and he could surprise us. Punk could turn around and be like, I'm going after Cody. I don't want anything to do with these guys anymore in the world title. I want the mega title over there. I want Winged Eagle. Next, I have Drew McIntyre. Drew is on a tear right now, and I love it. And I think Drew's going to be even bigger in 2025. I think you could kickstart that with a Rumble win. Drew right now is Bloodline Hunter, and anybody that has helped the Bloodline, he's going after them, and he doesn't care what brand they're on. And because he's so dominant right now, I think you continue that dominance. You can have Drew win, but instead of going after the world title, he did lose it at Mania. He got screwed over by Punk. Maybe he wants to go and get that once again. But I think a more interesting story for Drew right now is if he shifted his focus and he went after Cody in the WWE Championship. Because Drew McIntyre right now is a Bloodline Hunter, he's taking them all out, good and bad. Cody, I think, is on that list. I think he will come for Jay, and I think he will come for, that's a bad way to say things, but he's going to go after and fight Solo and Jay and Jimmy when he returns and Roman Reigns. And I think also Cody is on that list because Cody helped out Roman Reigns, much like Kevin Owens' motivation. Cody helped out Roman Reigns in the tag team match with Bloodline. And I like to see really big, nasty heel Drew McIntyre fight Cody Rhodes and beat him for the belt. Drew is up there as like one of my main contenders. I think he could do it. It'd be a really cool story. All right, next up on the men's side, Seth Rollins. Give Seth that singles mania match for the title with the title, whatever, but get him to win the Royal Rumble and you got a really cool story. And you could have him go after a champion Gunther. You could have him go after a champion CM Punk. Maybe Punk wins it at the Royal Rumble. Maybe Punk wins it at Chamber, wins it on Netflix, I don't know. And then you could have Punk Rollins main event night 1. You could also do a triple threat where you're gonna have Seth and Punk and Gunther fighting it out for the world title, which would be very interesting dynamics. And a dark horse pick for me, specifically on the Raw side, Jey Uso. If you got everybody just dealing with Rock and Bloodline and all these other stories that they're in, Jey Uso is extremely popular. One of the most popular superstars in WWE today, top merch seller. WWE really likes Jey. And I think that if you want to get him a little bit away from all this Bloodline stuff, and he's dealing with Drew McIntyre right now, but he could end up shocking everybody and win the Royal Rumble, a massive ovation and pop from the crowd, and then you have Jey go off and fight Gunther, for example, at WrestleMania. The thing is though, is like with a Royal Rumble winner nowadays, it doesn't necessarily mean that they main event night 1 or night 2. Like Jey could open the show with Gunther for the title match, or you can get Jey involved in a multi-man match. But Jey is kind of my dark horse here. Other Rumble winner potentials, and what I see is more likely kind of like Punk. Another big name is John Cena. I think John Cena has a very clear path to win the Royal Rumble and have it all make sense. He returns on Raw on Netflix. He announces that he's going to be in the Royal Rumble officially. I think John enters in at like whatever, 26, 27, and he can win the Royal Rumble. He can then turn around and he gets the point at the Mania side one last time. He goes off to WrestleMania, night 1 or night 2, and he fights Cody Rhodes. Sure, John could turn around and he could fight the world champion Gunther, and that's an excellent match and a really cool story. But for John to go after that title, that one more win to get that 17th win, I think a big blockbuster match is Cody versus Cena for the title. There's a lot on the line there. Cody's been champion for a year. He's the face of the company today versus the legendary John Cena. Almost a passing of the torch situation. And then the big questions come in of like, can Cena do it and get the 17th title win? Or is Cody gonna retain? What happens if Cena loses? I think there's a lot of intrigue there. And you could end up with a similar kind of match where it was like Hogan Rock. You got two big time stars, current generation, old generation, that type of thing. I think a lot of fans would just like to see it. Another name on the list, Randy Orton. Randy comes back, wins the Royal Rumble, surprises everybody, comes in there, he starts dishing out RKOs to everybody. And this time he's angry because he got a pile driver from Kevin Owens. So he's still got Kevin Owens to deal with. And there's a lot of time between Rumble and Mania, right? We got Rumble. We got 3-hour SmackDowns coming up. You got Elimination Chamber and then WrestleMania. You could do the blow off between Randy Orton and Kevin Owens before WrestleMania, but you could make it very interesting where you continue the Kevin Owens Cody Rhodes story all the way to WrestleMania, but now you have the Rumble winner and Randy Orton. Randy's got all the heat in the world to go with Kevin Owens, and you could very easily make a case and make a story of Randy and Cody not getting along. Put those three guys together in the ring, make that for the title. That could be night 1 if you've got Final Boss on night 2 and Roman Reigns. Kevin Owens is doing his best story, his best Kevin Owens story for 2024 right now with Cody Rhodes. Now with this ladder match happening at the Rumble, I think it's really exciting and I don't really want it to end. But if it does, I would see totally that it'd be Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens one-on-one at WrestleMania. But Randy winning the Rumble is cool. People love Randy Orton, and I think a 3-way just keeps that whole story and dynamic going and be fun. All right, there's 2 more on this list. The first thing I need to do though is ask if everybody would please, you click the button there, it says subscribe. If you guys can, that'd be awesome. We are trying to make our 2025 goal of hitting 50,000 subscribers. So it'd be awesome if you guys do that. It's a great way to support the show. It's totally free. The next person on the list, Roman Reigns. I think it's kind of unlikely that Roman wins. I don't really see it. I see a lot of bloodline stuff for him. And then what are you gonna do? You're gonna do Roman versus Cody 3? You might do that if it's kind of a last ditch effort, a final resort if The Rock is not gonna show up. You could fall back on that match. I don't really want to see it. I think Roman could very well be in the Royal Rumble, but if he is, I think he gets screwed by the bloodline, because I do think our final pick here could win the Royal Rumble and make things very interesting. If he shows up, and the story is moving in that direction, I can see The Rock, the final boss, winning the Royal Rumble. I think that it could be down to a lot of big names in the final 4, final 5 of the Rumble, where you have Seth and Drew and Punk, and if Roman is still in the Rumble, as number 29, he's the last guy standing there, the countdown hits, and then the final boss's music hits and he comes down and he walks and he takes his time. The Rock could enter the Royal Rumble. There's a couple of ways they could do this too. The Rock could just make his way down into the Royal Rumble match, stare down Roman Reigns. They go and they throw hands back and forth, and Rock tosses Roman Reigns over the top rope, and Rock goes off to fight Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. Or it's like a 3-way of Cody, Roman, and Rock. Or it's all up in the air. Maybe Cody drops the, I don't know. But then maybe they just do Rock and Roman anyways. And who the hell knows? They do for the People's Championship. You could also, as an alternative for The Rock, for the final boss, you could enter him as 31. He's final boss. Remember at WrestleMania 40? He's just calling the shots. He's telling the referees no DQ. He's telling them what to do. He runs the whole show. So you could have it where there is the potential of, say, Roman Reigns winning the Rumble, or we think he wins the Rumble, and then lights go out, boom, final boss. Number 31 is The Rock, and he walks in and again eliminates Roman Reigns or whoever is final ones in the Rumble. The other thing you could do with The Rock, though, is that if you do have him coming in as like number 30 and he's final entrant, as he comes down to the ring, you then have him do his like 1, 2, 3 countdown thing, or 3, 2, 1, and then he calls in the rest of the bloodline. Solo, Jacob Fatu, the Tongas. He orders them to come down and beat down whoever is left in the ring. Maybe do some eliminations too. It gets into pure chaos, and Rock has to just walk into the ring. And with the help of the rest of the new bloodline, they eliminate everybody else who is in their path, and the bell rings and they announce the final boss has won the Royal Rumble. I'm sure that a lot of people will be like, no, I don't want Rock anywhere on my TV, and I don't think I want this. Rock taking away a Royal Rumble win from somebody else. But it does have a really cool story in there if they did something kind of unique like that, and the heat on The Rock would be massive. But for you, who wins the men's and the women's Royal Rumble in 2025? Well, let's talk more WWE. Click this video right here and have yourself a great day. See ya.